Hello, this is so exciting. We have a very special episode today. This is my first collaborative podcast with another podcaster, Catrine Rhenberg, which is so cool and so fun. So today you are tuning into Hello Moxie and the wealth within her. So this is new. We're going to see how it goes, but it's going to be super fun. And I'm so delighted to be joined by Catrine. And I feel like when we met, there was so much synergy between the work that she's doing and the work that I'm doing at Hello Moxie. We're just so committed to female empowerment and helping women speak up and find their voice and find financial freedom and be independent and all those beautiful things. So, Catrine, I'm so honored to have you on Hello Moxie, and I'm so delighted to be on The Wealth Within Her. Welcome.
Thank you, and welcome to you then as well. I'm super excited. It's the first time that I'm also doing this joint podcasting, and let's see where the conversation goes. But I think we have a lot to talk about, as you said.
Yes. So I've been dying to know what really inspired you to start the wealth within her. I want to know your journey to that. I know you have quite an extensive uh, career in the fintech world, but
Yeah.
what was it that really led you to this new startup? And tell us about it. I'd love for you to share with our listeners what it is and
So
what you
I'm going
do.
to share very briefly what I have started to call my 2 million euro lesson, because that was really the starting point for the wealth within her. And I sat down a while ago and I kind of looked back at my life and did some calculations, looking at specific episodes or events, very specific events in my life, and realized that I had left somewhere between 2 and 3 million euros on the table for
Wow.
not speaking up, for not trusting myself, for not negotiating, and a lot of it having to do with low self-worth and what I think is how we are trained as little girls, or like how societal norms form us, and how that translates into how we behave as adult women, but also how society kind of sees us and maybe expects us to behave in certain ways. So I felt that I was following those patterns a lot, and that led me to do things like accept my first job offer without negotiating my salary. 7% of women negotiate their first salary versus 57% of men. And you can increase your starting salary by up to 20% on average if you do. And of course, that's just, that's an important impact on your salary in that job, but it has like a huge effect if you translate it into what you do with that money in terms of potentially investing it, and the compounding of that investment over a 20, 30, 40-year career. It also sets you up for where you will be in your next job and the one after that, and so on. So huge impact. I didn't negotiate. I didn't ask for stock options that were written into my contract before I was told it was too late, because I thought, let me prove myself first. Let me show them that I deserve it. Another thing, women tend to do is wait until we are given what sort of we think that others think that we deserve. So those are just some examples. I didn't ask for a prenup. I sold the painting because I didn't want to upset the gallerist or disappoint the buyers. A lot of specific incidents. And then I had conversations with other successful women in corporate careers, or who had started successful businesses, and they would tell me things like, I know I'm not going to, ask for a pay raise this year because last summer my nanny was sick. So I had to, step in and take care of my kids for a while. And so I need to prove myself again one more time before I will ask for the raise. So just like women don't advocate for themselves, and I want them to realize, not that we're leaving money on the table because of money itself, but because of all the things that money can help us do, and also the importance of valuing yourself, and having your own self-worth, and how that translates into how others see you and value you. the quality of your relationships, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, that was the starting point.
Oh, there's so much to unpack there. So first of all, amazing work and so important. I can tell you for myself, I didn't negotiate my first salary.
Yeah,
And when I did negotiate, so years later, I was like, I'm going to negotiate this offer. I had gotten a job offer. And when I did negotiate it, I was able to increase my salary significantly higher just by asking. And it didn't in any way impact my relationship with the company or, any of that. And I think before I had thought about it, I was always so worried about, oh my gosh, how's this going to impact my boss? And what are they going to think about me if I ask for more money? And so, as women, I think sometimes we're so overly concerned with what other people are going to think or
yeah.
what they're going to do. And we just have to put ourselves in the driver's seat more and just let all that head trash go because, oh,
Absolutely. And I mean, the fact is that, employers expect you to negotiate, and they tend to
mhm,
build that into their offer, the
yeah.
space to increase your salary. So you're definitely leaving money on the table that has already been budgeted for you if you don't negotiate. And also relationships tend, professional relationships, unless you're very aggressive and so on. But I think that most women are not aggressive negotiators. It can actually strengthen the professional relationships, because the other party sees you as professional,
Mhm.
confident in your own value and what you're bringing to the relationship, etc., etc. So yeah, I think, as you said, we're a lot in our heads when it comes to negotiating, and seeing it as conflict instead of collaboration, and really
Mm.
finding mutual value. And then I try to get women to reframe that into something that is a collaboration more than a confrontation. But
Yeah,
I'd
I
love
love that.
you to also share a little bit, since we are doing this sort of back and forth
Yeah.
setup, maybe
Oh,
how
that's so
you
cool.
started
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, so cool. Two amazing female founders in the room doing amazing stuff to help women. Sheesh, so cool. So I founded Hello Moxie as a passion project. So I own a marketing agency that I started, oh man, 5 years ago. And when I started my business, Katrine, I did not want to be a marketing agency. I wanted to do fractional CMO work. And I turned into an agency by accident because we grew so fast. And after several years, I woke up one day completely burnt out. I was in a very
Mm,
toxic business relationship and I was totally burnt out. And I was like, this is not what I want. I'm so unhappy with what I'm doing here. And I had a great executive coach and she sat me down and she's like, Nicole, what is it that when you were a kid, what did you love to do? You
mm,
know, and so that's what really inspired me to start this podcast because I loved telling stories and stories of women and empowerment. I was obsessed with like Harriet Tubman and Queen Elizabeth and all these women. And so that's what started the podcast. And the more conversations I had with women like you, the more I realized that there's so many badass women who are doing amazing work and just still struggling with imposter syndrome and self-doubt
mm.
and craving connection and craving support and guidance. And so I thought let's try a mentorship program. What would happen if we paired senior women in tech with rising women in tech and created a space where women could get the support that they are craving? And
Yeah.
we had our first event in July. It went so well. We decided to, start a cohort, and so that's really what we've evolved into is a mentorship and leadership development startup for women in tech, and it's incredibly rewarding. We had our first live mentorship webinar this week where we had several of our mentors come and answer questions from anonymous listeners on the spot in real time.
Ah,
And the questions that were asked were just so great. And the mentors were like hearing their stories of how they've overcome systemic bias was just like so inspiring,
mm.
So so it's just been very rewarding to see and hear from the people that we've worked with as mentees too, how much they're just craving this and just, loving the support of having a senior woman, a leader in tech, which is like a unicorn to
Yeah,
give them support.
exactly. Absolutely.
So
No,
yeah.
I think role models are
Mm,
so important.
yeah.
And so I think I love the work that you're doing and just bringing, yeah, more women together to share those experiences. It's amazing. Yeah, so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. I remember 2 years out of college, Katrine, I had this amazing job opportunity to work for a female-owned company. I remember when I went to the
Mm,
job interview, I walked in and there were 3 women sitting around the table, the CEO and founder, the COO, and the CFO, all women. There was entirely
yeah.
fe and this was in
Wow.
2005. So I
Gives me
knew, like,
goosebumps because it's
I
so
know.
unusual.
Exactly. I walked away and I was like, "I need this, like, this is
Yeah.
like, I can this is a great incredible opportunity." It was, and they were I wouldn't be where I am without the mentorship they gave me. And so when I
Mm,
moved into the manufacturing and e-commerce space, very male dominated, oh my goodness,
yeah.
so much so, I
Yeah.
felt the gap, and I was like, "We need to how can we change this?"
Mm,
You know? So,
mm.
yeah,
Yeah,
so that's
so
a little bit of
important.
my
Ah, so
story.
good. Yeah, I love it.
Yes.
Amazing.
Oh,
Very
I just
nice.
gotta know the one thing of, like, I was reading that you feel like this is, I think, amazing. You've shared recently that every woman should have, I'm gonna say it, "fuck you" money. So I'm
Yes.
just, like, dying to know,
Yes.
what is this? Tell me more. I
Absolutely.
gotta know about this. What
I
is
mean,
this?
it's a more powerful way to describe a an emergency fund, really. But it's an
Mm,
emergency fund that is really for you and that really gives you choice. That
mm,
lets you walk away from situations that don't serve you,
mm,
and that can be anything from a relationship that's no longer serving you, to a job with a boss potentially that you don't like, to leaving, a landlord that you don't
mm,
have a good relationship with, to being able to take a step back because of health. Yeah, all of those reasons, and having that feeling of security that I can walk away from anything that doesn't serve me because I have this buffer that is completely mine, that I'm in complete control of. And I think that it's so empowering, even if you don't use it, just to know that it's there.
yes.
So that's why, that's a lot of what I talk about and why I advocate for financial freedom. It doesn't mean that you stop everything you do, but it gives you agency to make decisions about your own life. And yeah, that's what I feel very strongly about.
Agency, so true. Like, I just think that having that foundation for women just gives you so much freedom
Hmm.
and independence to be
Yeah,
able to
yeah.
make choices. And I think historically, women have not had a lot of freedom or ability to make choices. And now we live at a time where we can, be very intentional about that. What specifically advice, like, do you have recommendations on how women can get started with that? Like, if they're for the first time, say someone new in her career, she's just getting out of college and she's just getting started, and she's got
Yeah,
to
I mean,
invest in her 401k and do all that stuff. But
yeah, no, I think it's that. It's really taking the first step and
Mm,
trying to reframe sort of fear into freedom. And because I think a
mm,
lot of the time we also think, money and handling money is difficult. I don't know how to do it. There's a lot of jargon there. I have to know how to do it before I start. But
mm,
it is in today's, world, with online accounts and index funds, etc.
mm,
There, you don't have to know a lot to get started, and you don't have to start with a lot of money to get started. So even,
mhm,
10, 20, 30, 40, 50, whatever, $100, and just doing it regularly, that's a great start. And then I think the other thing is also to talk about it more with your friends, family, whatever, because money for women in particular is still such a taboo topic. So ask your friends, are you investing? What are you investing in? How are you saving? Setting it up. Setting it up so it's easier for you, and then just asking and talking about it, because then you will learn a lot, and you will also remove that stigma that this is something that I don't know about. And there's so many educational resources online as well. Fabulous books by like financial feminist,
mm,
online communities like Female Invest, etc., etc. So you can get a lot of educational resources. But what
financial
I
feminist.
think, Yeah, yeah. But what I think is important is yeah, to remove sort of the stigma, and realize that you deserve it, because I think, and that's, what I work a lot on, is on the mindset piece and the self-worth, that you deserve to save your money, to see it grow, to have that fuck you fund. And having that mental shift, that this is something that I can do and that I deserve, I think is a good start.
So let's talk about that, like this you deserve it, self-worth. What was the catalyst for you where you finally just woke up and you're like, "Oh my gosh, what have I been doing all these years?"
um
How did you get to a point where you realized that
yeah,
your self-worth was the problem?
enough is enough. I think I think obviously, the older and wiser you get, you kind of realize,
Mm,
looking back at your mistakes. But a big catalyst for me was my separation,
mm,
and just realizing, well, now, it's up to me, to
mm.
manage
Yeah.
my wealth for myself and my children going forward. I can't kind of hide behind someone else will do it, or someone else tells me I can't do it, or whatever. So I think that was a big thing. And realizing also, I had, for example, not asked for a prenup to make my ex feel comfortable, because, and just, and that kind of triggered, okay, well, there are a lot of other
Mm,
situations, but I also diminished myself for what I thought was someone else's comfort, like not selling
yeah.
the art, the painting, or not asking for the shares or whatever. And I think, yeah, somehow there it's just like, okay, well, it's not, it's even in, it's kind of in your head. You don't even know what's comfort for the other person or not. So the only thing you know is what you have inside. And I just decided one day that, okay, well, that's what I'm gonna, listen to
Mm,
first and foremost.
I love it. And what a powerful way to be able to take what you've learned and the lessons you've learned and give back. Like I can tell you as, a woman who's doing, I've launched a startup and there's still kind of this prove it. Well, not
Yeah.
still. There is a prove it pressure I feel, right? Where I've got to be able to show impact before I'm really
Mm.
ready to ask for an investor, And I think a lot of women, you mentioned that earlier, like this idea of like we've got to prove it before we deserve it. What how do you I guess how do you advise women to find this balance between this kind of prove it pressure before you feel like you're ready to make the
Mm.
ask, right? Versus really, because yeah, anyway, that's my question. Like how do
Mm.
you know when you're ready to really, go big and go bold versus
Mm.
wait?
It's, I mean, yeah, it's a hard one, and I'd love to hear from you afterwards how you're tackling it as well. But I
Mhm.
had a conversation, fairly recently, about failure and experimentation,
Mm,
and I think that kind of ties into it, because as women and girls, or girls are taught, to get it right, to draw inside the lines, to be perfect. And I think that really translates into, yes, us as adults
mhm,
feeling that we have to have everything in line before we can ask for money, or before we can go out. And I think, so really kind of being open to that it's a process, and you're learning,
mm,
from the process, and it doesn't have to be perfect from the beginning. um, I think you just have to sort of become more aware of that and see it really as a process. And I think what you're doing with having mentors and someone to talk it through with, so you don't feel alone either, I think that's
mhm,
super important. And because you can learn, of course, from, your own mistakes and your own failures, but you can also learn a lot from others. And as women, we're great at supporting each other in social situations, but maybe we haven't been so good at supporting each other, and or also reaching out to ask for support in, professional situations, because of this imagined need to be perfect and already know it before we start. It's like this, a statistic that says that women will apply for a job if they meet 100% of the job criteria, whereas men will apply if they meet 60. So if we think we have to know it all before we start, then we're also more ashamed to ask if we
Yeah.
don't know. And that's why I think, what you're doing with mentorship is so important, because there you can ask someone in a safe environment and get that
Yes.
support and feedback. So
That's
yeah,
so
I'd love to
true.
hear a little bit about how you're
Yeah.
tackling it
So
as well.
I have it's been such an exciting journey for me because I can relate very much to this I'm a recovering perfectionist. I grew up in a very difficult home as a child. My dad was a very successful entrepreneur, but also
Mm.
very emotionally abusive. And so when I was, as I've grown up, I've always felt like, oh my gosh, if I make one mistake, it's like the end.
Mm.
And I can't make any mistakes. And so it made this whole idea of being a beginner
Yeah.
scary. It's
Yeah.
scary to be a beginner and try something new rather than exciting. And I think what I've really tried to do over the last several years, as I've been really just working on trying to shift some of those patterns I had, is just really leaning into curiosity about what is it that I'm curious about doing? What really is lighting me up? And allowing myself to just follow breadcrumbs of how does my body feel when
Mm.
I'm, writing or when I'm public speaking, and noticing those things and just kind of leaning
Mm.
into them. And the
Mm.
more that I've done that, the more it's kind of like I've developed this self-trust and also this really fun experimentation mindset where I'm like actually enjoying the process of being a beginner. So
Yeah.
when I started Hello Moxie, it really was a beginning. And we were like just testing, like literally we created this one-time mentorship event from nothing. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to, on a whim, I'll ask some of my friends if they'll be mentors in my network, women I really
Mm.
respect.
Mm.
And just what, like, it was literally just one step at a time. The pieces all kind of came into place, where it just, I really can't advocate enough for that. You just kind of take it one step at a time and then the next step reveals itself. I think sometimes when you have this mindset as a perfectionist that you've got to have it all figured out before you start, it holds you back. But if you just take one little step. And the other thing I found really amazing is that there's this beautiful thing that happens when you're vulnerable and you tell people, I need help.
Mm.
I'm doing this for the first time. Like the mentors that I asked to join our very first beta program in July, I was very candid with them. Like, this is scary for me. I've never done this before. And they were just like totally supportive and
Yeah.
showed up for me because I was honest and vulnerable about it. And I think because of that, it really connected us in a special
Mm.
way because it's like we were doing this together. We were trying something new together, and they wanted to support me, and like I wanted to support them. So I don't know. So it was just like I realized the more that I leaned into just this honesty
Yeah.
with the people that I was working with, and even the people that joined our cohort program or our beta program, just telling them like, you're building this with us. We value
Mm-hmm.
your
Mm-hmm.
opinion. We want to know what you need and what you want. And there's something really empowering about just being honest and saying
Yeah.
like, we are uncertain about the way and we want you to help us figure that out with us. That
Yes.
people respond to that. They're like,
Yes.
whoa, that's so cool. I get to be part
Yeah.
of what this is and what it becomes. Like it's very exciting. So I don't know. That's been my experience.
Absolutely. And I think also, I mean, that is, it's something very relatable as well,
Mm.
because we are in this, in this idea that we have to have everything right. And so when someone
Yeah.
lets down the guard and says, well, I don't have everything figured out yet, then it's like,
Mhm.
oh, finally, I can also relax and tell, reveal myself that I don't have it all together either. And there's
Mhm.
like a very strong sense of rapport that is built, and just like community, and yes, that we support each other, and you give permission to others not to be perfect either. And I think that's amazing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Mm.
Yes. So cool. So I gotta know, you live in Ibiza. Like, how
Yes.
did you end up there? That's so freaking cool. Ibiza.
Oh yeah. I can share the story,
Yeah.
which
So
is
cool.
a little bit of a funny story. I was living in Sweden at the time, with
Mm-hmm.
my two kids they were 2.5 and 4 when we moved here, or just turning 5. My daughter was turning 5. And with my
Mm-hmm.
ex-husband, we were raw vegan, so we only ate raw
Mm.
food. But living in Sweden, in the north, a northern hemisphere, we have a short season. So
Yeah.
if you want to eat locally produced, when you're a raw vegan, it's not an ideal
Oh,
country. So
yeah.
we basically moved for the food, and we ended up in
Wow.
Ibiza. And none of us spoke Spanish. I mean, I speak good French, so it would have made more sense to move to the south of France.
Mm.
But we somehow landed on Spain, and we initially thought we would move to Tenerife, or the Canary Islands, because they grow bananas and papaya there. But I visited and I didn't really like it. So then 2 weeks before the beginning of term, my daughter got a place at the school here, because we had looked at alternative schools.
Uh-huh.
And it turned out later it was because of a misunderstanding, a lost in translation moment, that she got the space, even because they thought that she had already gone to one of those schools. And so we ended up in Ibiza.
Wow. That's so cool.
Never been here before. Yeah, but I'm still here, not married, not raw vegan, but still living in Ibiza. Yeah.
And what has most surprised you about living there? What do you love about it there?
So, having been a city girl, I mean, I grew up in Geneva, then I moved to Paris, then I moved to London, then I lived in Stockholm. I guess it's surprising to me that I really love being in the countryside. And
Mm.
then it has taken me almost it's taken me, we've lived here now 7 years. I think I'm in my 8th year.
Mm.
It took me about 5 years to realize how much I love going in the sea. And now I'm
Mm.
obsessed. Like every day, I'm like, "Oof, I just need to get a quick swim in." It doesn't have to be, I'm not a long distance swimmer, but just getting into the water is amazing. And then, really, Ibiza, yes, it's a small island in the Mediterranean, but it's really a melting pot of people. There are people from
Yeah.
everywhere. It's a big mix of entrepreneurs, um, and a lot in the health and wellness and alternative spiritual space as well. So a lot of different views on life,
Mm.
and approaches, and I think that's really interesting. And that kind of
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to mix. It's like the practical financial. You have, not you have to, but I encourage women to take some responsibility of their finances, but also a
Mhm.
lot about um, a softer, maybe a little bit more spiritual approach about the
Mhm.
self-worth, visualization, and things like that as well, which are, yeah, the hippier side of Ibiza. So
Oh, which
yeah.
is but I think so important. You know, I love the fact that you're focusing in on transforming, or empowering women from the inside out
Yeah.
rather than from like this
Yes.
top down, like, okay, financial literacy, just follow all these steps and this is how you can,
Yeah.
but rather like leading from like like
Hmm.
from the core of the essence of who you are and what you believe about yourself. Because once you
Yeah.
start to change and shift those beliefs, then it just like infuses itself in everywhere you show up in the world.
Yeah.
So you mentioned visualization specifically, like when you're working with women as part of your community, like do you have kind of a framework or a process that you have them kind of go through to like understand kind of maybe some of the limiting beliefs they have around money and how they can kind of get out of it?
Hmm. Yeah,
Mm.
so we work a lot around, your money memories, identifying your
Mm.
earliest money memory, how that feels in the body, what it looks like,
Mm.
um, talking about how money was talked about or not talked about when you were growing up, because I think a lot of those, that has really, a big impact to your relationship to money today. And then realizing that you can, that's a story that you were kind of given. We're given so many stories,
Mhm.
and beliefs about the world when we grow up, from our parents, and from society, and from people around us, not just around money and wealth and self-worth, but other things as well. But just realizing that you can choose to rewrite that, and you can question what your beliefs are, and if you want to change them. So a lot of that is looking back at, okay, well, what did I learn or
Mhm.
integrate as a child, and do those beliefs still serve me? And then we also work a lot about actually taking the time to step back and define what wealth and success really looks like for us. Because again, I think, a lot of us who have been in corporate careers, we've been pursuing definitions of success, especially that might not be our definitions of success. So having the time and space to think, okay, well, what does the success mean to me, and what is wealth? Because wealth is so much more than the monetary measure.
Mm.
And so those, I think, are important, and how those go together. And then the visualization part is really looking at, okay, well, what does your ideal day look like, in the future? And especially both working with entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, and those in corporate careers. But what are the elements, and trying to be as visual as possible, but what are the elements that would define your perfect day, so you're
Mm.
clear about that? And sometimes working with founders, you're striving for something, you want to be, so big and successful, but you also want to have a lot of time for yourself, for your family, for doing other activities, and they might not be aligned. So just being aware of, okay, well, do those two visions align or not? And then I think the final part for me, which is super important, is looking at that ideal day, identifying where you already have that in your life, or where you can bring it into your life in small ways to anchor in that feeling of abundance and wealth. Yeah, it's not something in the future. A lot of it is something you already have, and it can be really just becoming aware of it. Like for me, going swimming, it's such a feeling of wealth for me. And I think for a lot of women, um, yeah, I think there are things that you have in your daily life that you just have to be aware of as well. So yeah.
That is so true. I love all of that. Just like the gratitude that invites when you
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Mm-hmm.
can really
Yes.
like reflect on what you do have already that is wealth. And I think, you know, I know I've had kind of going to my own money stories of like what I, grew up believing. I grew up believing that wealth was like financial success was everything, that you
Mm-hmm.
would not be happy, worthwhile, worthy, unless you were incredibly financially successful. That was like
Mm-hmm.
wired into me. And I think that this idea of wealth being so much more open to
Yeah.
your own vision of what wealth looks like for you. It doesn't necessarily need to be, obviously we're talking about financial freedom, which is very important, but really getting clarity on what the definition of wealth for you. And that financial piece it is a very important part of it, but there's other elements
Mm-hmm.
that are part of it too, I think, that we
Yeah.
need to be thinking about.
Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I'm curious to hear a little bit how that journey has been for you. When did you come to that realization that it wasn't just financial success that was wealth, and how can you kind of transform that over your life and career?
Yeah. Oh. So I've always been someone who's always hustling. Not anymore, but I was. And so
Mm-hmm.
I always believed that the more you hustled, the more if you more financial success you would have. That would be like, that was the ultimate. I would find success if I just continued to hustle and work and, prove and make more money. Making more money would make me more happy, and I'd feel happier and more fulfilled the more money that I made. And I learned that that actually wasn't true. So, I did. I built, I grew started this marketing agency. We grew very quickly. We grew fourfold in 4 years. On paper, financially, it was like, oh my gosh, Nicole, you're living the dream. It's going so well. You're making so much money. Catrine, I was miserable. I was like
Mm-hmm.
not happy at all. I was stressed. I was burnt out. I wasn't doing work that I loved. I
Yeah.
I felt it in my body, like, my body was
Yeah.
screaming at me every
Yeah.
day. I'd wake up and I'd have, like, this pit in my stomach and my heart would be racing,
Yeah.
like, my body was telling me, "This is not for you." And so that was for me the realization of, like, not, what am I chasing? Right, like,
Yeah.
what is this really gonna be something that's going to make this clearly, if I'm not doing what fulfills me and what lights me up, it doesn't matter how much money I make, I'm never gonna feel you know, great, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was kind of like it was a breaking point for me. I would hit burnout. I realized I didn't want to be in that business anymore. And I
Mm.
had to make a pretty, I didn't have to. I chose to make a very
Yes.
risky pivot. And I
Yeah.
am like so much more happy now than I've ever been in my entire life. So
Mm.
for me, I like
Wow.
I'm just like, the more I can just listen to what my body is telling me and really pay attention to those signals. Like you talked earlier about how, understanding how it feels in the body, like your money stories and
Yes.
how that feels
Yeah.
in your body. Like that is real. Like that,
Yes.
what your body, the sensations you're feeling is so important for you to get connected to. And I think as women,
Mm.
we grew up and I learned to just ignore those signals.
Yeah.
So like the more we can like tap into them and really recognize them, I think, and follow them, it will lead us exactly where we need to go, and we'll start to develop self-trust, and it builds on
Yes.
itself. And the more that you trust yourself and take, steps that align and are congruent with you and the essence of what your body needs, the more that
Mm.
the wealth that you're talking about will just come to you, whatever that
Yes.
looks like for
Yes.
you. So
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, I mean, we talked about the visualization part. So maybe I'll just add to that. Part of that visualization and how that feels in the body can just be at looking at images as well. And just listening to how does your body respond to the different images that you're looking at, that
Mm.
could be representations of your future life or just things that you respond differently to. And that kind of definitely helps to guide you into, okay, this is something that resonates with me and probably what I should be bringing in different ways into my life more. And these are things that don't resonate with me. And I need to find ways to have limited exposure to those. So definitely working on that. Full body yes,
Yeah.
in response to yeah, what you're visualizing into your life as well. And yeah.
I love that. I've done something similar several times where like I wrote on little index cards everything I did
Mm-hmm.
every day. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
I, managed this, performance marketing campaign, or I wrote this proposal or whatever. So I wrote every little task, like everything that I ever did, and I like put them all on the floor, just like in different places, and I went to each one and I stood on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like just stood for a minute and just like paid attention to how does this feel?
Yeah.
How does this feel?
Yeah.
And it was so clarifying because I was able to
Mm.
realize really quickly, like, oh my goodness, like these are the things I need to be spending my time on. These are the
Yes.
things that are going to be, helping me move the needle forward with where I want to be. And these are the things I need to figure out how to like offload.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It was
Yes. Yeah.
really powerful
Yeah. Yeah.
exercise. And I think the
Yeah.
same is true for your financial
Yeah.
freedom too. Like
Mm-hmm.
getting clarity on it that way is really cool. Mm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, so bringing in, the magic, the visa magic into some of the work that you do, or a little bit of that more, yeah, spiritual or visualization side, and really, as you said, really learning to listen to our bodies. Yeah, that's something that has also been a journey for me, and super important. Yeah.
Mm. So I'd love to know, who is a woman that really inspires you, a woman in history? They don't have to be deceased, but like maybe it's yeah. Do you have someone that you've really
Mm-hmm.
looked up to or that you've really resonated with, that really you admire them and value what they value?
So I'm really inspired by Jane Goodall,
Mm.
the chimpanzee woman, because of her commitment, because of her also very sort of quiet, but feels. I don't know her, of course. I don't know her work that well, but she just, the energy that she sort of gives out is something that's very, very centered, very calm, and still very committed. And yeah, I mean, she obviously did work when she started that was in a very male dominated in industry, if you want to call it that way. I mean, working in the jungle. um, and she's just stayed very committed to that. And the way she communicates and so on, yes, inspires me a lot. Yeah.
Mm. I have to be honest, I haven't really read, or I'm trying to think if I've ever really heard anything. I mean, I know who Jane
Mm.
Goodall is, and I know
Yeah.
she recently passed away, and I know about her legacy, but I've never actually watched her speak or heard
Mm.
her speak. I
Mm.
feel like now I need to hear her speak.
Yes.
What is it that's so special about the way that she communicates and
I
how
think
she
yeah, I think it's really the energy that it's like,
Mm,
it's not loud, it's not imposing, and it's almost, and I think this is something that we as women can probably learn from, because we've been, and you, I mean, both you and me have been in male dominated tech industries where, and I think a lot of industries, and maybe it's changing, but where you kind of feel like you have to be loud and you have to kind of take on this a little bit of a male energy in
mm,
order to be listened to and to be taken seriously. And she does the opposite. She is quiet, but quiet with a lot of force. And so it's, yeah, it's a lot about how she comes across and the energy that she puts out there into the world, that has inspired me,
mm,
apart from the work and the commitment and so on. But yeah, like, sort of really channeling that feminine softness into something very strong and powerful, instead of
mm.
feeling like you have to be, in, yeah, in your masculine energy in order to be taken seriously.
That is such a yeah. Yeah, listen, I think maybe we just need to spend more time with chimpanzees. Maybe that will help us
Probably
all.
also.
Spend
Yes.
more time in the jungle and just like because I do feel like
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like the more time I spend outside, it just naturally like,
Mm.
"Oh, I feel so
Yeah,
grounded
yes,
now."
exactly. Yeah. And maybe that is why. Maybe that's why she comes across that way, because she has this, yeah, very calming aura about her, which I love. Yeah.
Well, you
And I'm
have
sure
that too.
oh, thank you.
You do, yeah, I see it
Ah.
in you. You have like this
Hmm.
very, um you have an energy about you, I'd say, that is very welcoming and feels safe, and every time I talk to you, it's just like, oh, like feel
Oh, thank
relaxed.
you.
Yeah, you
Ah.
do. It's really
Hmm.
it's very inclusive, and it's yeah, it's beautiful. So I think that you are honoring her with the way that
Hmm.
you show up, and I can see it coming through with the way that you communicate and are. It's cool. So
Thank you.
yeah, very cool.
Can I ask you back then, because I know Hello Moxie
Yeah.
was, started to and in the podcast you do ask women about, their role models and so on. So maybe and you've probably shared on your podcast, but who is that woman for you?
Ooh. Okay, so I have several,
Okay.
but one of them is Queen Elizabeth I.
Hmm.
I have been obsessed with her since I was a little girl. I just was just fascinated by her. And I think I always felt like I related to her in some way from the time I was young. I mean, obviously, I'm not a queen or anything, but like her father was very similar to my father. And, so
Mm.
that I felt like I related to because the things and the way that her King Henry VIII, the way that the choices he made and the way he showed up in the world was just very similar to the choices my father made. So I
Mm.
felt immediately like this almost this kinship with her of like,
Mm.
I get this woman, like I understand. her. And so, and I think I just really loved her. I just admired her incredible strength and independence
Yeah.
and just fearlessness. And the fact that she was just like, all these people are pressuring me to get married, and I'm going to go my own way and do my own thing. Like, I really respected that tremendously. And I loved
Mm.
how, what an incredible leader that she was. Like,
Yeah.
people loved her and
Mm.
she loved her people. And I
Mm.
just think like every choice that she made was made because of the great love and respect for her that she had for her people and also for herself.
Mm.
And like that was such a like it was just it's beautiful. It was beautiful to read about that and how she would just, I don't know, she just had such resolve about her and
Mm. Yeah.
such resilience and just really a true, like when I think of a queen, like to me she's just like the ultimate type
Mm.
of queen. She had this just unapologetic ownership of this is who I am,
Yeah.
and I trust myself, and I'm confident to make decisions, and they may not be popular, but this is what's right. And that, like, that earned the love of her people. I mean, I just really admired her, and that she really created her own pathway. And you know after like all of the chaos that came before her from her father and all of that, she just, I don't know, she just came out of it with such strength and courage. So she's
Mm.
been one that I really
Mm.
have always loved.
That's amazing. One thing you said, it earned her the love of her people, and I think that resonates with me also because as women, we try to be liked, and we try to find a
Mhm.
way to behave or way to be liked. But she was loved because people respected her, and they saw that she was very strong in her yeah, in her decisions. As you said, this is what I believe. She had very strong beliefs, and I think not always maybe making the popular choice, but
Right.
she earned the respect and the love because she made those decisions based on her inner conviction.
Mm,
So yeah, as I think that is something to take from her as well, like that she was respected. And sometimes
mhm.
we choose likability over respect, but in the long term, I think that respect is so strong.
Yeah, and you're right. It's what ultimately being respect is what will, yeah. I mean, yeah, totally. I agree with everything that you just said there. And I just totally lost my train of thought. I hate it when that happens.
It happens.
Oh, have a
I was
great
I was
podcast.
I was I was gonna say it's Friday afternoon, but it's not even for you. It's Friday morning.
I got no excuse. Oh,
Doesn't
now I guess the
matter.
word that comes up for me as you were sharing that is congruent. Like she just
Yeah.
lived with such congruence.
Yeah.
She was who she said she was. She made
Mm.
choices in alignment with who she
Hmm.
was,
Yeah.
and she didn't pander. And that is just like that word is something like I literally have it as a
Mm.
bracelet on my wrist right
Oh
now.
wow.
Congruent. Like I just want to live my life that way. And so I think, yeah, I
Mm.
love that about her. So yeah, that would be one. And then
Mm.
the other one is Harriet Tubman. I just adore her. She's really cool too. So there's so many women. Yeah.
And that was really the start of the podcast. Was just, or tell me a little bit more. Sort of, yeah.
Oh
You
yeah.
started. How do you started the podcast?
Oh, so yeah, so I had another podcast when I had my
Mm.
marketing agency because I wanted to always be a podcaster. I was always very curious about it. And so I had this other podcast called Tales of Misadventure. I interviewed entrepreneurs and I loved it. But then when I realized I wanted to start telling different stories. And
Mm-hmm.
when my coach asked me about, what did you like doing when you were a little kid? The number one thing I loved to do was write. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I had in the sixth grade teacher who had been part of this, what he called the skunk group. Okay. And this was like a group of kids in the class that we would get like special assignments. And it was named after this group that was at Lockheed Martin, I guess. He told me this years later, my teacher, when I reached out to him. I was like, what is this skunk group? What did it even mean? Like skunk group. Anyway, it was named after this like special group that was at Lockheed Martin that they would do these special projects. And so it was like the same kind of concept. So, anyways, one of my projects was to write a play about Harriet Tubman. And
Ah.
I just fell in love with her. I just was just so enamored by the fact that she so fearlessly risked her life multiple times to save, like, not only did she like make her way to freedom for herself, she went back for her family and her friends and took risks to help them. And that just was massive Moxie.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I just loved her story. I loved her spirituality. She was a very spiritual woman,
Mm.
and she very much like had a very strong discernment and intuition. I mean, she
Mm.
like made it to freedom without a map, all on her own in the dark. Like, no, like that's to me incredible discernment and intuition. And as women, I think that is a gift that we all can tap
Mm.
into. And so
Mm-hmm.
anyway, I wrote this play about her, and I remember my teacher had me perform it for the school board meeting, and it was just like when I look back on my younger years, that was like the one moment in my not probably the moment in my life where I felt like truly most in flow and alive was that project.
Oh,
And so when I was
wow.
telling my coach about it, she's like, "What if you started this podcast and you just started, having those conversations and hearing from other women about the women in history that have inspired them?" And that's
Yeah.
kind of what started it. It was really, really cool. Yeah, and you know what else is
Mm.
cool? I actually wrote a play, Katrine. I wrote a new play. I'm not kidding.
Oh, really?
I wrote
Oh,
I've been
wow.
writing a play
Amazing.
for the last 6 months now, and the 2 of the characters in my play are Queen Elizabeth and Harriet Tubman.
I love it. I love it. I mean, this just shows that anything is possible, and yeah, really connecting with what you love doing, you will find a way to get that into your life. And yeah, wow, if we just give us
Yes.
ourselves the space to connect and actually feel, and yeah, give it space,
Yeah.
then it comes into our lives. So I love that. Amazing. What a
Mhm.
great story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been fun.
Ah, so
So
good. Yes.
oh, this has been so fun. Oh
Mm.
my gosh. Let's just talk all day, Katrine. Oh man.
Absolutely. It stopped raining here. I have nowhere to go, so
Well,
all good.
I think it's time for you to go end your week and go jump in the
Yes.
sea and go take a nice
Mm,
swim. I wish I could be there
I will
swimming with
probably
you.
do that. Yes.
Yeah. Mm.
Okay, yes, I will do that. It sounds pretty nice. But I loved having this conversation, and yeah, we have so much. It feels like we still have a lot to talk about. So
Oh,
we'll leave that
yeah,
for
so
another
wonderful.
time.
Yes. Well, thank you for being a guest, and thank you for having me on your show as well.
Yeah,
And yeah,
exciting.
and I don't know how to end this. How do we end the show? Do you want
I
to
don't
end this
know.
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you for
Yeah.
for the conversation. Thank you for
Mhm.
the possibility for you gave me to share about what I love doing,
Mhm.
and thank you for sharing more about your wonderful projects. And I think
Mhm.
what I really love hearing are the backstories, the whys
Mhm.
behind.
Mhm.
So really good to hear those. Really good to hear how you're weaving, yes, what you love doing as a child into what you're doing now, into new projects as well. And I
Mhm.
think that's super inspirational. I think, as we talked about as well, for women, it's so important to see these journeys that other women are on as well, and really the behind the scenes. It's not just the perfect
No.
facade, but everything that's happening behind, and really, that thread that runs through life that isn't straight, but it somehow all makes sense. And I love how you've shared a lot of that today.
So true. It's the weaving journey. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, when I was younger, I used to think that you needed to be on this like track where it was just like this. And what I've come to realize is that there's so much beauty in and joy in like the fits and the starts and the trying something new and pivoting and
Yeah.
doing something different. And if we can let go of this, maybe I don't know where this expectation comes from, but this expectation that we all need to follow
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
pathway and not
Mm-hmm.
change, it's just very can be very limiting. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Oh, and I think it's so like I'm so inspired by the work that you're doing. It's making me think really carefully and thoughtfully about like, you know, how am I planning for my financial future? And do I have a good, fuck you plan in place? And what do I need to do to make sure that that feels really solid and just
Mm-hmm.
like thinking about this. I'm challenged by the money stories question that you've
Mm-hmm.
shared. I think for our
Mm.
listeners listening to this, like such a great exercise to
Yeah.
really take away from this is like getting clarity on what your money stories are from your childhood and creating a new visualization for how you can release and let those go. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so cool. Oh, awesome.
Amazing.
Very good. Well,
Okay, great.
thanks, Katrine. It's been great.
Thank
And I hope you
you.
have a lovely day and we'll talk soon.
Thank
Okay.
you. You too. Bye.
Bye.